All right. Welcome to the Russia-Ukraine War Summit 2023, presented by Leicester Politics Society. Before we move on to the aims and objectives of this presentation, just want to let you know that who we are, what we stand for. So we are basically a student-run, non-partisan politics society at the University of Leicester. So we host this sort of academic events, forums, political discussions, and so on. So thank you everybody for turning in today. So the aim of this summit is to discuss the causes and consequences of the Russia-Ukraine war. So that is through the lens of various topics in order to gain a comprehensive understanding. Just keep it there. So the topics today would be hard power in Russian foreign policy, war tactics, territorial gains, and future of the war, as in the discourse where it goes, American foreign policy and domestic politics, debunking historical myths and claims, I think, which is really important to this topic, cybersecurity and intelligence agencies and the sort of role that they play in this conflict, and global economy and sanctions, which seem to be a key topic in this war. Our first expert, if you don't know her, is Dr. Olesya Tkacheva. So she's an associate professor in big data and international affairs at the Brussels School of Government, a research fellow at the Kennan Institute in Washington, D.C. She has 10 years of transatlantic professional experience on Eurasia and Europe, with a particular focus on cyber information warfare, democratic resilience, and Russian military strategy. Wonderful. She published on cyber escalation, Russian foreign policy and disinformation by leveraging experimental big data, computational text methodologies. So her current research focuses on civil-military relations, military mobilization in Russia. So prior to this, she was also a political scientist at the RAND Corporation, advising senior policymakers and security challenges emerging from new technologies. She's also contributed to the drafting of NATO's framework, a country director at the US Office of the Secretary of Defense, where she contributed to the development and implementation of the US policy to counter Russia's aggression in Ukraine. And she also received a Team Achievement Award from the Under Secretary of Defense for Policy. So that seems to be a wonderful CV, Dr. Olesya. Our second expert, which I'm personally a big fan as well, Dr. Patrick Bury, a senior lecturer in security at the Police Department, specializing in warfare and counterterrorism. He's got 20 years of experience of working in the security sector as a practitioner, analyst, and an academic. Former British Army captain, NATO analyst. I'm pretty sure you might have seen him on BBC News, BBC World, Sky News, all of those lovely news channels. Also on LBC, which is also a national podcast show. He's also a regular contributor to the British and Irish national and regional radio, written regularly for the Irish Times, The Guardian, and The Independent. Also appeared in major global outlets, including The New Scientist. Prior to entering academia, Dr. Bury served in the British Army as an air assault infantry captain. A memoir of his platoon's tour in Sangin, which is in Afghanistan, call sign Hades, was published by Simon & Schuster in 2010. Also being described as the first great book of the Afghan war. And after leaving the army, he's also worked as an analyst for NATO and then a private security firm. So kudos to you, Dr. Bury, another wonderful achievement on the CV. Next, we have Matthew Duss. Matt is an executive vice president at the Center for International Policy, So before joining the CIP, Matt was a visiting scholar in the American Statecraft Program at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. So from 2017 to 22, he was also a foreign policy advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders. From 2014 to 2017, he was also the president of the Foundation for Middle East Peace Institute. From 2008 to 14, Duss was a national security and international policy analyst at the Center for American Progress. So yet again, he's also been widely published in the New York Times, the Washington Post, Foreign Affairs, The Nation, the American Prospect, and Foreign Policy. He's also got an MA in International Studies from the University of Washington and a BA in Political Science from the University of Washington. I do remember reading articles that Matt published, but this was not for Russia and Ukraine. This was regarding the Middle East. Yeah, so he's a prolific writer. So I do suggest please check out his work. Next we have Dr. Alexander Korb, also known as Alex. He was also my professor last year, taking his modules. He's very knowledgeable in what he teaches. Dr. Alex is an associate professor in modern European history at the University of Leicester. He was also the director of the university's Stanley Burton Center for Holocaust and Genocide Studies between 2012 and 2018. An expert in Holocaust studies, he specializes in history of genocide, of international relations within wartime Europe, and in a transnational intellectual history of right-wing Europe. He's published on German popular reactions towards the persecution of Jews, on Weimar history, on the question how both East and West Germans deal with the Nazi past. He commands several European languages, including Czech, Russian, and Serbo-Croatian. Also, he holds fellowships at Yad Vashem, the Vienna Wiesenthal Institute, the US Holocaust Memorial Museum, and the USC Shoah Foundation. So in short, Dr. Alex has got what we call as the linguistic risk that we all want, but we can't possess. Very hard to learn languages. Next, we have Javed Ali. He's an associate professor of practice at the Jawahar Lal Ford School of Public Policy, where he delivers courses of counterterrorism and domestic terrorism, cybersecurity, and national security law and policy. Ali brings more than 20 years of professional experience in national security and intelligence issues in Washington, D.C. So he's held numerous positions, Defense Intelligence Agency, the Department of Homeland Security before joining the FBI. So while at the FBI, he's also held senior roles on joint duty assignments and National Intelligence Council. Also at the NCC, which is the National Counterterrorism Center, National Security Council, also under the Trump administration. So he provides TV and radio interviews on a range of national security issues to US and international networks. I think he also runs his own podcast, the Burn Bag, if I'm not wrong, and I think I've heard a couple of podcasts as well. So please do check that out as well. There's some lovely content over there. And our last presenter, speaker, and expert, if I may say, Mikhail Mamonov. He's an assistant professor in finance at Toulouse Business School, France. He's got a PhD from Czech Republic. That's, I think, Charles University. I think that's a joint program. During 2021 to 2023, he was a visiting PhD student at the Department of Banking and Finance at the University of Zurich. Also the Department of Accounting at the KU Leuven, Belgium, and the Department of Economics at Princeton University. Research focuses on political distortions in banking and finance. The